It's 3:30 in the morning, heading to the airport now.
Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to welcome you to the Conserve Airport on the island of Maui.
Oh, I see ya. It's a juvenile. Well, good way to start off this morning, I guess. Good morning. It's me, Spencer Lee, back with another video. Today, we are out here once again in Hosmer's Grove on the beautiful island of Maui and photographing the I'iwi and trying to photograph some other native honey creepers. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing a solo trip here on the Valley Isle for 3 nights. I actually have PTO next week, and that next week was supposed to be the vacation time that we would have used to go to Yellowstone until that alien started to grow inside the Lummy's belly. Plus, I also had a couple of days of extra work piled on into the week that I was supposed to take vacation anyways, so I decided to stack a few trips on either side of those work commitments. So this is the first of 2 trips that we're going to be taking within the next week or so. This isn't going to be your generic travel video like we're used to. Instead, I wanted to dive into a more deeper and more important topic, which is conservation. These birds do face some pretty imminent and grave threats. So in this video, I wanted to kind of go over what those threats are, as well as showcase and highlight the conservation efforts that are being made to help protect these birds. And probably what's most applicable to you guys watching this video, kind of discuss how we as photographers can help promote these conservation efforts using our photography. Yeah, there's so much activity happening right now in this little corner here. We've got apapane up there. There's like 3 of them just kind of hanging out, and then every now and then the I'iwis will come in and kind of chase them around. So they're like flying from branch to branch, but they kind of want to just chill right here. There's a lot of activity going on right now. I just love to hear those sounds of these birds. Believe it or not, there was one point in time where the songs of these birds filled our islands up and down the island chain, from as north as Niihau all the way down to the Big Islands, from sea to summit. In fact, it was the first Polynesians before they came to Hawaii that said that they could hear the islands before they could actually visualize the islands. The activity really be going crazy over here right now. There's so much going on. But yeah, after contact with the Western world and the introduction of mosquitoes, populations of the EEV and a lot of the other native honey creepers has declined drastically. And due to those mosquito-borne diseases and climate change, it pushed the population of these birds up to areas like this at the base of Haleakala at altitude where it's too cold for mosquitoes to get them. I mentioned before that if an EEV gets bitten by a mosquito, it has a 90% chance of death. Some birds, like the amakihi and the apapane, and to some extent the elepaio as well, have developed somewhat of a resistance against avian malaria and other mosquito-borne diseases, but other birds like the EEV aren't as lucky. And because our islands have lost so much of its native plants, native species, within the conservation community, Hawaii is known as the extinction capital of the world. Kind of hanging out back here in the brush because you can look past this big branch. You can see that big bush of maimane, and that's seems to be where all of the juvenile EEV are kind of hanging out. It's so funny, every time the juvenile will kind of find a spot and start feeding, then the bigger adult EEVs will come in and kick them out and bully them out of the way. So I'm trying to capture a shot that has both the juvenile and the adult, because you can really tell the stark differences. So if you find a juvenile, more times than not, you're going to be able to find an adult that flies right next to them and tries to chase them off. And I just haven't been able to get like the best shot of one just yet. But that's going to be my goal, I think, for the rest of the day. going back again to conservation. When you think about the best landscape and nature photographers, you don't think of them necessarily just for their incredible landscapes. In my opinion, the best of the best usually contribute their photography to conservation efforts, and it's the impact that they have with both their images as well as their impact on the conservation world, which makes them one of the greats of nature photography. I mean, just think of people like Ansel Adams. His work was used to inspire the conservation and preservation of wide open landscapes like Yosemite, Grand Tetons, Yellowstone, and he had a big impact on a lot of like the government and the legislation that went about to protect those areas. Not only was Ansel a photographer, but he was also president of the Sierra Club, and through the actions of the Sierra Club, he kind of lobbied and got a lot of like the protection for our public lands that unfortunately is under threat nowadays. But it was through his photography and through his conservation work where he really had the biggest impact. And even though his landscapes were obviously very, very stunning pieces of art, it was his use of those photographs in combination with his conservation work that really cemented him as one of the greats and one of the forefathers of landscape and nature photography. Now, I'm not saying that we... Hold up. Is that a bird in the tree? Oh yes, there's a juvenile right in front of us. Hang on. Pause the conservation talk as the rain and the clouds start to roll in. There we go. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost too close, but these guys honestly don't care. But yeah, back to conservation now. When we compare ourselves to Ansel Adams, a little unrealistic, both as like a conservationist as well as a photographer. Not expecting everybody out there, every nature photographer out there to go and be the president of the Sierra Club, nor are we expecting us to take as good of landscape and nature shots as Ansel Adams. But what we can do is with the artwork that we share, you know, these images of these beautiful birds, our beautiful landscapes, we can tie in some sort of conservation message to whatever we're posting online, whether that's Instagram posts, whether that's YouTube videos. You know, I kind of try to sprinkle in a little bit of conservation into every single video that I make. But it's an important thing, I think, especially in this digital era where, you know, it's so easy for images to go viral and for places to blow up, and, you know, a lot of people kind of flocking to areas where there used to not be a lot of foot traffic and not all of those people are very outdoor minded. I think it's very, very important for us to showcase the importance of conservation, the importance of leave no trace principles. I think it's important as landscape and nature photographers that we not just share the beauty of Mother Nature, but also showcase how we can protect it so that our future generations can see these beautiful things. I think back in Ansel Adams' time, not many people saw how beautiful our world was, essentially. But because of the internet and because of Instagram and Facebook and the virality of sharing all of these beautiful places, I think, I want to say the public has kind of become a little too desensitized to these beautiful images and these beautiful places that we all see. So the impact of just sharing a beautiful place, it just really isn't powerful enough to drive people to want to care and want to conserve these places and these animals. So it's just that much more important that we share conservation tips, share the work of conservation organizations, and I'll get into that in a second, and actually use our words, whether it's in a caption or, you know, posting stories and all of that kind of stuff, and educating people that, yes, while these beautiful places and these beautiful creatures are beautiful for beauty's sake, there's also threats to them, and there are ways that you, as a member of the public, can take action to help protect them for future generations. With that being said though, even though people are so kind of desensitized to the obvious shot, like the epic Instagram landscape type of shot, I think that if you do capture something truly, truly special, I think it still does have the power to drive conservation change in a positive direction. But yeah, regardless of whether you're capturing nature at its best, most beautiful, or you're capturing nature at its worst and most horrific, like the videos that we took of the dead Koa corpse a couple of weeks ago, I think both ends of the spectrum, those images and videos, have the power to drive conservation change in a positive direction. So it's important as photographers that we kind of strive to capture those sort of images and those sort of videos, and we'll kind of get into what to look for and more actionable steps later on in the video. There's like 3 juveniles in this bush here. Got a few shots of them, but there's 1 adult in this next bush right here, and I don't know when it's gonna want to try and chase them off, but we are getting some beautiful juvenile shots right now. Man, I was so hyped last time when I got the few juvenile shots that we did, but then this time they're really outpacing and outdoing the last time. That thunder. I guess that means I should probably start trying to wrap up this video. And kind of don't want to be around here if there's going to be a thunderstorm. But yeah, so like, what things can we do as photographers to aid in the conservation efforts? The first thing is something that we always should be doing when we're going out in Mother Nature, is photographing ethically, trying our best not to disturb the natural environment of these wildlife creatures, as well as just the landscape itself, following the principles of leave no trace to the best of our ability, staying on marked trails, not doing any damage to any of the habitats. You know, our photos should never come before the well-being of Mother Nature, because without Mother Nature we wouldn't have anything to take photos of. So yeah, try your best to, whenever you're going out and shooting, minimize the physical impact that you're having as a photographer on these spaces, and also promote that within your social media posts and all that. Because if you are leading by example as a photographer and trying not to trample things and recreating responsibly, then your audience and your followers will follow suit. Number 2 is to share more than just the shot, and this kind of has 2 ways of putting it. Now, video, I notice, especially on Instagram and social media nowadays, tends to be a little bit more engaging than still photography. So pairing the images that you capture with some video clips is going to make that content more engaging, more interactive, and hopefully ultimately that leads to people building deeper relationships with the subjects that you're photographing. Now, I'm not saying go all in on video and just abandon photography, because of course I'm never going to abandon taking still images, but using them in tandem can be a very powerful way to get whatever message across, whatever conservation message across. In addition to that, sharing more than just the photo, you can also share your experience. Share things like how I'm kind of doing now with the EEV. Talk about the behavior, talk about what you're seeing when you're out photographing these guys. But by sharing your experience, you allow the audience member to kind of relate to whatever subject it is on a more personal level, because it's an interaction between human and nature, and it's not just nature. So sometimes that in itself can be more relatable than just photos and videos of a bird. When we inevitably start to share our work online, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or whatever, it's important to include some sort of educational piece alongside the beautiful images and the beautiful video that you are capturing. Education is a very important part of conservation, and anytime you're able to share a beautiful image, you should try your best, if possible, to share an educational piece on the animal. Again, sharing more information allows the viewer to develop a deeper relationship with that subject, of course, leading more people to care about that subject, etc., etc. A very popular thing to do nowadays is to collaborate with conservation organizations. Now, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because conservation organizations have this social media to, not only provide education, but also just kind of showcase the good work that they're doing to the public. And sometimes I feel that photographers currently, because it's the new and trendy thing to do, they kind of take advantage of some of these pages and kind of use it as a selfish way to promote their work. Don't do that. Don't be one of those photographers. If you are going to collaborate with a conservation organization on social media, make sure that either the work kind of promotes and fits the type of work that they are doing, and really think about your work as a way for these conservation organizations to promote their work, if that makes sense. That's what a collaboration is all about. If your work is not going to promote their work, then I wouldn't bother trying to collaborate with them. But, as a side benefit of the fact that you are going to be collaborating with these conservation pages, the side benefit is that you do get a little bit of boost to social media, because people will see your passion and how much you care about whatever subject it is through your work. And that can allow for building a deeper and more meaningful connection with your audience, aside from just the fact that, oh, I like your images and they look nice. Usually people who are following and participating in these conservation efforts, they kind of already have some sort of personal connection. And by collaborating with these pages on posts on social media, it allows them to find your work, and then they will have a better appreciation for your work, and you'll have a better audience. And yeah, it's a great thing. Fuck, that's really close. Damn it. Oh man, this is like prime weather too. It's like nice and moody. Shit. I think we should get out of here though. Sounds like a bad idea to be up here. Oh boy. Yeah, this lightning and thunder. It's a terrible idea to be up here right now. They're right above us. It's a couple of miles above us. I'm gonna hang out, see if it passes, because I really, really like this lighting. But in the case that it doesn't, we're gonna finish off this video in the comfort and safety of my car vehicle. So went over action steps that we as photographers can take. But what if you're a photographer, or if you're any other layperson, and wow, the rain is chucking it down now. And let's say you wanna help protect these native birds and these native forests. What things can you do on your end to do that? One of the best things that we can do is by volunteering and joining community events that focus on the removal of invasive species and plants, and focus on the planting of native species and plants. Hosmer's Grove here, there's a lot of mamane, there's some ohia, there's some koa. So if any of the organizations are focusing on removing invasive species and planting these sort of trees, those are the volunteer activities that you're going to want to participate in to promote the habitat restoration for these native birds. I'll leave some of my favorite conservation organizations down in the YouTube video below. Another thing that you can do is when you're finished hiking through these forests, you want to make sure that you clean your shoes, as well as if you're a photographer, you also want to be cleaning your tripod spikes to remove any sort of bacteria, viruses. The thing that we're most concerned about is transmitting what's called rapid ohia death. It's a virus that affects the ohia and causes rapid death of the ohia. So it's very important when traveling between islands, traveling between forests, we make sure that we clean and wash off whatever touches the ground, which is what I would do in this situation. But I think there's some other safety concerns that we have to worry about right now. So is this hail? This might be hail. It's hailing right now. Check this out. See all those? That's hail. And how do I know? Because if I zoom in really, really close here on this window shield here, you can see that is ice. So yes, it is indeed hailing up here at Haleakala right now. What the hail? I think people are leaving, but I think the best thing to do right now is to kind of just hunker down and be safe, because I don't know how safe I would be driving down the road in this sort of weather. Like, it's kind of nuts, I think. Anyways, going back to the conservation tips, if you have pets, especially cats, make sure that you keep them indoors, make sure that they're spayed and neutered. Again, one of the biggest threats to these native birds, not just the EEV, it's not the biggest threat necessarily to the EEV, but to other birds that live at lower elevation. The threat is feral cats, and those feral cats like to hunt the eggs of other birds like the kua'ai'ula, like we talked about before. So try your best to resist the urge to feed the feral cats, because by feeding them, you're unintentionally dooming the native bird population. So I'm not saying go out there and kill all the cats in the world on our islands, but you get what I'm trying to say. Don't promote the conservation of these feral cats, promote the conservation of our native birds instead. You also want to regularly check your home for any freestanding water. This freestanding water allows mosquitoes to nest and to propagate in. So one way to reduce the amount of mosquitoes in our areas is to reduce the environment in which they're able to reproduce in. So routinely look around your house. Could be buckets that just get filled during the rain, or any sort of thing. If there is freestanding water, try your best to remove it whenever possible. By doing that, you'll directly be helping to save the EEV and other honey creeper populations, because again, the number one threat to these birds is the mosquitoes and avian malaria and other mosquito-borne diseases. And the last thing that we can do is raise awareness. Raise awareness on social media by promoting some of my beautiful artwork of these birds, but also by sharing your own experiences with whatever subject it is that you want to conserve. Share that experience, promote it, bring attention to the issues that you care about, and support and vote for your local legislators that have some sort of ties to conservation, or at least care about conservation and think that it is a priority for our future. And don't vote for those people who don't think climate change is real and, are ultimately against our policy. I don't want to get too political here, but if we do truly care about the environment, I think that should be reflective by the way that we vote in our elections.
Hosmer's Grove here on Maui is one of the few places left in our islands where these honey creepers can really thrive. Perhaps one day their voices can be heard in more areas, but until that day comes, it's important to fight for their preservation and their survival. As photographers, we have an important role to play in conservation. Every photo and video has the potential to spark curiosity, empathy, and action, especially when we pour our own appreciation for these subjects into our work. It really does come across to other people. So the next time you go out into the great outdoors with your camera, ask yourself, how can I create work that preserves these places and these beautiful creatures for future generations?
All right, well, This hill doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon. Pretty much every single car has left the parking lot right now, so I think I'm gonna call it quits. But this was a good first day. Hopefully this rain kind of dies down. I want to be able to come back and really try to grab a shot of both the adult and the juvenile Eevee and maybe some other birds as well. Yeah, it's a little rough here. But I hope you guys had fun tagging along on this photography adventure. Don't forget the conservation tips that I shared in this video, and think about it the next time you go out and photograph in Mother Nature. But we'll see you guys. We'll sign off for now. We'll see you guys tomorrow. If you like this type of content, there's travel, vacation, a little bit of photography, education, hit that like button, comment below, subscribe if you aren't already. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.